But then, I'm sitting in a psych ward with people who are genuinely broken. The guy who slept across from me was a paranoid schizophrenic who spent all night long yelling and throwing his poop at the door. Mahogany, this girl 2 doors down, just a teenager. Her entire body was scarred from her cutting herself. All of these people were in worse shape than I was. Like, on the surface, they were in worse shape than I was. And I'm looking around going, these are my people. This is where I belong. And every day the nurse would come to me and say, do you feel like hurting yourself today? Yep. She'd give me some pills. Friends would visit me. My friend Steve would just sit in the waiting room all day if I needed him. And my wife would come. And I think it was in those 5 days that I realized people love me. And not just because I perform well for them.
Was it because being in that uber vulnerable, broken state and people were still loving you was like, okay, here's the real me?
Yeah, I had nothing to offer these people.
Yeah.
What could I do for them?
Yeah.
All the manipulation and lies and everything I had stuffed down, they're seeing it. And they're coming back. And that began the 7-year journey of rebuilding my life. My wife and I and kids, we moved into the woods and started over.
So when did you recognize God in this? Like, I know God was there and still orchestrating like the questions, obviously, and some of that stuff. But like, where were you in recognizing him and relationship with him and the whole thing? So
that, I think, I have been surrounded by amazing Christ followers and believers for a number of years. So the truth about God and where he fits into this deal has always sort of been there. Right. Yeah. But I had up to that point just sort of not come face to face with it. And so the first year post my hospital stay, I spent probably 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week in counseling sessions. And one of the questions I was asked repeatedly was, where is God in this? The counselor would ask, what do you think about it? And I was like, what do you mean? It's not God's fault. I had this understanding that God was not responsible for it, but my counselor wasn't going to let me off the hook. He's like, he doesn't have to be responsible for it for you to be angry at him. I was like, wait a second. You don't get angry with God. But I would unload on a punching bag about just all of these things like hatred, and, seeing images from my childhood, and I would just punch until I bled. But as soon as God was brought up, I was like, I don't have any. So eventually, I guess I had to sit down. This is what did it. Someone said to me, God was weeping right alongside you when all that was happening. And I was like, well, then screw God. I don't need someone weeping alongside of me. I need someone to protect me. And he didn't. And that's when I didn't have a crisis of faith, but the way I was needing to face God in that moment, as if he was somehow responsible, as if he was culpable for what was going on. that shook me because I didn't want to blame God. So instead of blaming, I just began to ask him, why? And, well-meaning Christians always say dumb things. God's going to use your story. There'll be redemption. For the record, don't ever say that to someone when they're bleeding in front of you. Just bandage the wound.
Yeah. There are like times where you say the wrong thing.
Yes.
It might be a truth, but if it's not a truth with love,
yes,
in a way that someone in that gushing wound
yes.
moment can hear. Yeah.
Just hang out with me and love me and feel what I'm feeling. Don't try to fix me.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That's good.
That idea that, God's going to redeem this, or, there's a plan and all this. I keep wanting to cuss. So I'm trying to keep myself cussing. I have a filthy mouth, and I love Jesus, but I like to cuss a little bit.
I don't want to have to beep you.
So coming face to face with God, and asking the question, why? Where were you?
Yeah.
And I'm getting answers every day. The answer is, life sucks and God is good. Pain happens and God is good. What I do know, this side of heaven, is that I am who I am because of how I've suffered. Not because of what I've suffered. So, I'd rather not be raped. I'd rather that not happen. But being able to endure and suffer well made me who I am. I used to be pain and anger and violence and shame and self-doubt. I'm not those things. But so I used to be. I don't ever want to say the word survivor. People in the Holocaust were survivors. But I came out on the other side alive from a situation that was meant to kill me. I'm alive. The only plausible reason for that in my mind is God. Because I tried everything. The story of my life was meant to end differently than it has. And the only thing I can make sense of is that God gave me what I needed to suffer well and to come out on the other side. And that, that poses a whole bunch of other questions. But life sucks and God is good.
I think questions are okay.
Yes.
People, I think, struggle with asking God those hard questions.
Yeah.
Like, where were you, God, when this happened? Or why is this happening? And what makes it tough in some moments is when you deny that you have those questions, and you just kind of, I'm just gonna keep going.
That's right.
And when you allow yourself to ask, that's when you kind of struggle through answers, I think. Sometimes you get the answers quick, and then sometimes you get them very slowly, like trying to open a door that's been rusted shut, and you kind of take a crowbar and you just kind of keep working it until you get it open. So
I've found that the answers I get, they're the answers I'm able to take at the moment. My life is just one giant series of things being revealed over time. Like I've never gotten the answer quickly, but it's just a series of, there's non-negotiables in my life. There's things I believe that nothing you or anybody else can say that will change that as it relates to God. But my life is this constant opening of a giant book, and I'm getting glimpses of it, and it's making sense over time. And I don't know if I want it any other way. I think maybe I'd like to be totally okay. But I can't imagine who I would be outside of the way this has played out. My life is incredible. I mean, it's not that I feel like I'm a miracle. I couldn't write a better story. Pain and all. I couldn't write a better story. And I have to assume that that's God.
But would you say that it's worth working through that stuff to get to the end?
If there is hope in it, the hope is this. As I said, I am who I am because of suffering. I'm also I am who I am because of the people who love me in the midst of it. I am who I am because of the road I've walked. So the hope is enduring is worth it.
That's good.
It is worth it. Killing yourself is not worth it. Had I succeeded, I would have orphaned my children, widowed my wife, and the hundreds of people who love and value me would have been crushed. That's what I would have done had I ended my life. Now, the suffering would have ended, the pain would have ended, but the damage that would have, the fallout of me ending my life would not have just been me. I used to tell my wife all the time, I can do these things to myself because it doesn't hurt anybody else. She would always say, you got to sleep, you have to eat, you need to be less reckless. I'm like, well, I'm not hurting anybody else. Not true. Every life that I have touched just continues to weave, and we're connected. And I do anything to break that connection. I'm not the one that's hurt. I'm not the only one that's hurt. All the stories, all the lives, everything that God has sort of orchestrated. I end my life, and there's fallout that no one asked for and no one deserves. Mm-hmm. So I end my life. I'm no better than the person who hurt me. Because it's not just my life.
Right.
It's not just my life.
I think that's kind of a lie we tell ourselves in that moment is
Certainly.
it's just me. Everyone will be better off without me.
Certainly.
You get in this weird sort of space of like you're the ultimate bad in this story, and that's just not true. In the act, it would be an ultimate bad. But for you, the only thing you're seeing is if I do it, I won't be in pain anymore. This pain is overwhelming. It's hard to articulate to someone in a way that they can really get.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're too much.
Yes, that's right.
And not enough at the same time. Mm-hmm. So you're like this weird place. But I think that is a really good perspective that you eventually work to, that your story is intertwined with all these other stories,
Yes.
that you're not just by yourself.
That's right.
And you think in the moment that the things that you go through is just you're in a bubble, and it's not just you in that bubble. But you think that, and you forget how it all kind of is connected. So
for a while, when I started this sort of the road to healing, I remember having this Post-it note on my desk. It said something like, "Don't hide today," or like, "Be known," or something. It was a reminder to me that the more I am known, the more chance I am to be rejected, sure. But the more I'm known, the more people know me. The more people know me. To be known is what we desire above all things. We want to be known more than we want anything else, whether we can sort of wrap our brain around that or not. We want to be known.
Yeah.
The core of who we are, we want to be known. And the more I hide, the more I deny the fact that my life is connected to every life I've ever touched. The more alone I'm going to feel, and the more damage that's going to occur when something like ending my life, if that were to happen, or whatever.
Yeah.
I still tend to avoid people, but I used to say I hate people. I don't say that anymore. I say I want to be human. I want to know what it means to do this, and I'm still learning. I'm sometimes socially awkward and afraid,
Yeah, I totally get that. Totally get that.
Sometimes I say too much. Sometimes I don't say enough. And so I'm learning. Is it worth it? Yes. Yes, it's worth it. It's worth the awkwardness. It's worth the eye roll I get from my wife every time I say something stupid. And I do. I say dumb things all the time because I'm still learning how to exist.
Yeah. I think we all say dumb stuff, though.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, oh, man.
It's not so much dumb as it is inappropriate to humans. God bless my wife. She has to endure, even to this day. As healthy as I am, she did not know what she was getting into when she married me, and giving up was never an option for her. It was never an option. And on paper, you just sort of observe our life on paper, take God out of the equation. She has every right to have left me. Every right to have left me. And people would have applauded her for it. People told her to do it.
Wow.
And she didn't. So she's not my life. My world doesn't revolve around her. But she's the best gift I've ever been given. You asked me, where's the hope? Where do you find hope? Being that little boy that I was in my bed, having these existential crises in my mind, and being convinced that there is no life, that living wasn't worth it. I just want to say, just emphasize more, those feelings are not okay. It's in my mind when I was that kid, punishing myself that way was what I deserved. Like, having hope was not okay for someone like me. Someone is broken and ruined, and even at that young age, that's how I thought of myself, that I was a mistake. An abortion that didn't happen.
So, but to clarify, when you say that's how you thought.
That's how I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was that little boy, I believed I was so bad that I didn't deserve to have hope, even if I couldn't have articulated that. And if this story, this thing can do anything, my prayer and my hope would be that those thoughts, those feelings, those are lies. And reaching out and getting help, I would just say get help. Yeah. Those instances in our lives that rob us of whatever innocence we had, or whatever hope we had, those moments, they don't get to ultimately define us. And we are worth not sort of wallowing in that secret pain. We are worth being helped. And I'm just now figuring that out. I am worth it. And I don't think we believe that when we're in those moments. I believe I'm the only person who feels this. I'm the only one who understands this. I am terrible. That's what I believe. And there were a handful of people in my life who told me otherwise. So yes, you're worth it. You're worth it.
It's good. It's good. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was good.